Tank controls are arguably the best control scheme for Tomb Raider Remastered, but so many new players seem to dislike them. Let's take a look at why and then explore how they actually enhance the experience. When Tomb Raider first released in the 90s, tank controls were the norm, but nowadays they are seen as outdated, clunky, and just frustrating. For those of you that don't know what tank controls are, let's clarify what we mean. In the context of Tomb Raider and other 90s games such as Resident Evil, tank controls refer to a control scheme where the character moves like a tank. They can move forward, backward, and rotate left or right, but they can't strafe or move diagonally. Tomb Raider had a slight exception to this rule, with strafing was possible in terms of sidestepping, and moving diagonally could happen when running around normally without too much thought. Tomb Raider Remastered brings with it a choice, the classic tank controls and a more modern control scheme. This opened up the world of Lara Croft to a whole new generation of players. Now obviously you're going to think that modern controls are the way forward here, right? Everyone knows tank controls are outdated and it's possible that new players have never heard of them. On top of that, modern controls also open up accessibility and is what we're all familiar with now in 2024. It's easy to understand why new players look at tank controls in the menu and think absolutely not. The problem is, this control scheme doesn't suit the original Tomb Raider games, and to a lot of, if not all, of the original players, it feels so wrong. So why are tank controls disliked? Well, aside from being massively outdated, they feel very clunky, especially to players used to more fluid, responsive controls. They can also make certain movements, like dodging enemies or navigating narrow ledges, more difficult than they need to be. The lack of strafing can make combat feel stiff and unresponsive, and it can make exploration feel limited and restrictive. Furthermore, the controls can feel unintuitive to new players, leading to frustrating moments of trial and error. This can potentially lead to them never picking the game up ever again. However, tank controls aren't without their merits. They offer a level of precision that modern controls often lack. Every movement is deliberate, every action calculated. This can lead to a more immersive and arguably more rewarding Tomb Raider experience. The controls are part of the challenge and add to the puzzle element in some way. They force the player to think about their movements and plan their actions in advance, adding a strategic layer to the gameplay. On top of that, they add to the sense of tension and suspense, as the player must carefully navigate through dangerous environments and combat situations. So why did the developers choose to include tank controls in Tomb Raider Remastered? Well, the answer is fairly simple. They wanted to change almost nothing from the originals, preserving a unique gameplay experience that made the original Tomb Raider games so beloved. The game's levels are designed entirely with this control scheme in mind. The levels are built in a grid-like fashion, with each square representing a possible position for Lara. This makes movements predictable and puzzles more logical, perfectly complementing the precise nature of tank controls. One step forward is one square, and one step back is, well, you get the idea. In conclusion, while tank controls may not be everyone's cup of tea, they are arguably the best way to experience Tomb Raider Remastered, as they offer a unique way to experience the amazing levels in these games. They bring a level of challenge and immersion that modern controls simply can't replicate, but at the end of the day, the best control scheme is the one that you enjoy the most. So whether you're a fan of tank controls or prefer the more modern approach, remember, the most important thing is to have fun and enjoy these games. Ultimately, we want to bring new players into the franchise so that they can see and experience these classics for the first time. I'm glad that we A, have a remaster, and B, we have a much more fluid control set available for newer players.